Hi, I'm Carrie with Happy Fish Tarot, reeling in wisdom from the Sea of Tarot, and you are watching Tarot Tuesday, where I talk about anything and everything related to tarot. Today I am going to attempt to address a question I have been asked a few times recently, which is, how do I know when I'm ready to go professional as a tarot reader, and what do I need to consider about that decision? So, for full disclosure, I am about 6 months in now to being a professional tarot reader. So I'm definitely not going to proclaim to be an expert on this topic, but since I have been asked this question a few times and it is something that I enjoy talking about, I will give you some advice and some guidance that I have learned so far in my journey. The first thing I would advise you to consider would be how confident you are in your abilities. And by that I mean, have you done a lot of readings for friends and family? Have you done readings for strangers? That's a big thing to consider. Have you actively looked for feedback from the people that you're reading for? When you're reading, do you feel that things flow pretty well? Are you getting to that stage where you can kind of look at the cards and everything comes together to form a cohesive picture? Or do you still find yourself needing to use the booklets to look up card meanings? Assuming you've gotten to the point where you've been doing readings long enough and studied tarot enough that you have somewhat of a flow, that's the very first thing to consider. This doesn't mean you need to be perfect. In fact, I've recently heard people who have been reading tarot for decades say that they sometimes still get nervous when doing readings, so that's perfectly fine. You don't have to be a superhuman to be a successful professional tarot reader, but you do need to have at least that baseline level of confidence in your abilities. The second thing I would say is clarify what professional means to you. So when it comes to tarot, there is not a overarching body that issues licenses. I mean, there are lots of certification programs and there's associations and those types of things, but it's not like maybe teaching or nursing where you actually have to be issued a certificate to be considered a professional. So everyone kind of has their own definition of what it means to be a professional tarot reader, and if that path is something you're interested in, I would say think about what it means to you to be a professional. Does it mean that you start a side business while you're still working a day job? Does it mean maybe you start to try to do readings for one of the big psychic network type sites? Or does it simply mean that from time to time just your friends and your acquaintances will exchange a little bit of money for you to do a reading? So think about what it means to you to think of yourself as a professional. The third piece of advice I would give is get very clear on your reading style as well as your ethics. So by your reading style, I mean, are you doing readings that are very predictive? Do you do readings that are more advice driven? Are there certain topics that you like to do readings on? You know, for example, do you really enjoy doing readings on relationships or career? So all of those things are what makes up your individual style as a reader. And the more clarity that you have around what kind of reader you are, the better you can portray that when you start seeking clients as a professional reader, and the better you can kind of hone in on the type of client who would get the most out of a reading with you. Your individual ethics will be really important as well if you're thinking about going professional as a tarot reader. In fact, to me, one of the hallmarks that I think of when I do think of a professional reader is someone who has a very clear set of ethics and sticks to those. So I would definitely recommend that you sit down and write up a code of ethics for yourself. If you've been reading tarot for a while, you probably already again have a little bit of a feel for what your ethical boundaries are. So some common things that come up a lot for tarot readers would be, for example, will you do readings about third parties? So when someone comes to you and wants to know what their ex-boyfriend is thinking of them, is that a kind of reading that you would be willing to do? So think about what your ethics are and write them down. I will put a link below to my personal code of ethics to give you some ideas that you might want to consider, but don't feel that I'm saying my ethics are the right ethics. You can do whatever feels comfortable for you. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you do have a clear idea of what kind of readings you're willing to provide, so that when someone comes to you and requests a reading that is outside of your boundaries, you are able to handle that tactfully and not get flummoxed by it. The last piece of advice I would give is probably the most important, and this would be to stay optimistic and to keep your focus on why you want to be a professional tarot reader. There will be times if you go down this route that you will struggle. Sometimes you'll have a hard time getting clients, sometimes you might meet a new person and when you tell them that you're a tarot reader you might get a funny look. So those are all things to be prepared for, and just make sure that you are in a good enough place with accepting your desire to be a professional tarot reader that you can stay strong and keep going despite those kinds of setbacks. When I first decided to go professional as a tarot reader, I drew a card asking what I most needed to know about taking this road, and I got the Six of Cups. So I took this to mean that I need to always keep my main focus on giving readings that are as kind and compassionate and useful as I possibly can. And I think if you are coming into being a professional tarot reader from those kinds of really pure intentions, you really can't go wrong. So remember that being a professional tarot reader, you are a professional because you say you are a professional, and as long as you're doing it for good reasons and as long as you're doing it from a place of wanting to bring your gifts out into the world, you really can't go wrong. So I wish you the best of luck. And if anyone is interested in talking with me about this from a more individual perspective, because this advice is all pretty general, you are more than welcome to purchase a Skype session with me on my website, and just let me know when you make the purchase that it will be to talk about going professional. I would be more than happy to discuss that with you. Thank you for watching. Best of luck to anyone thinking about going down this fun and winding road, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put out videos every Tuesday. I will catch you next time.